Council meeting of September 5th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll call to order the school committee. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joan Shabbat's not here tonight, so I have my duties. I'm doing roll call. Council,
Who's taking notes?
we're not. We're going to just, she's going to take notes from the tape. Councilor Janik?
Present.
Councilor Edwards?
Present.
Councilor Milborn?
Present.
Councilor Edwards?
Present.
Councilor Burke?
Present.
Councilor deMedeiros here. Okay, Council President deMedeiros, discussion and possible vote on allocation of funds regarding fiscal year 2022 and 2023 casino gaming and ARPA money. I'm going to make this kind of short and simple tonight because I think we've talked this subject to no end. I'm going to make a motion, and if someone seconds it, then there'll be discussion. If there's any questions to the different groups that I'm allocating the money to, that would be part of the discussion. I make a motion that we give the schools $1.3 million from the casino fund, the town $194,317, and put aside $124,000 for safety for the schools.
Second.
Wait a minute. This is all, I want this to be in the motion that the reimbursement that's coming from all the work we've done, $814,219 has not come in yet, but that will go towards the gym project and the locker projects, up to that amount. If it exceeds that amount, then we'll have to talk about it. That reimbursement has not come in yet, but we do have an account all set up for it, and the treasurer's prepared for this. I do want to also make it clear that we have not done any safety programs for the elementary and middle, and I understand that we're going out for bid and we'll be looking at that. I do want to make clear that the 2023 money that we have not spent yet, our priority should be safety for the schools. So whatever the elementary and the middle require, next year I propose that we put that in. Safety has always been my priority for the schools, and if it looks like this is all going to work for us, so do I have a second?
Can I clarify what the actual motion is, though?
The motion is safety 124, schools 1.3, safety for schools 124, schools 1.3, town 194,317, and the reimbursement of $814,219 that we'll get back for the projects we've done in the schools go also to the locker gym project, up to that amount.
Second.
Is that clear, Mike? Okay.
You also want to add $115,500
You don't have to.
pay-go account?
So
No.
they get reimbursed from RIDE directly?
Yeah.
From that? That's the way that program works?
Yeah,
So-
we looked into that. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes,
I
of
do.
course.
So the schools have a pending grant for the safety. If that, and we're also allocating money. So if that money comes in from that safety grant, that money will go into the school restricted capital fund.
It will stay in 2022, 124 earmarked for safety for the schools. So if they don't spend that, then I expect that be spent for any elementary and middle school needs they have.
It will go, but it will be in
That is allocated for safety for the schools.
Right, because when we talked about that fund, we had added any money coming back from RIDE or any other reimbursements that we got would go into that.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that that money went back into that school restricted capital fund.
This motion restricts that amount for safety for the schools. What if they get the grant?
It pays for
This still stays here.
It'll stay in that.
And will be used for safety for the schools. Is that okay? Okay. Okay.
For your consideration.
Just, I want to clarify for what I responded to Chris. So the pay-as-you-go, RIDE actually pays
Yes.
those costs directly?
Right.
You
That
don't-
small
It's not a
amount.
reimbursement, it's a,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It's sort of a feeder to get the project started and going.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's part of the total reimbursement.
Right.
But it's the only amount you get in advance.
Yep.
Which is why it's a smaller amount.
And the only other thing I wanted, I was just looking, the senior center, Jan is not here, but she had mentioned in the backup that we had talked to her about capital funds for some of the senior center. But I think that what we had talked about, I mean, she asked for so little, I have no problem with that, but we had talked about some of the money that was like civic money from the power plant. So I'd like to revisit that at some point, separate from this.
on the agenda for Monday for us, I put 2023 allocation there, just in case we needed to, these numbers don't all work out, but I think they do. We talked with the treasurer today. I think they will work out. But on the agenda next week, if anyone has any requests for 2023, but we also have to keep in mind we have the landfill account we need to worry about and a couple of other needs for the town. But I did put it there as a placeholder in case we needed to go there next week. Any other questions, Jay? Are you comfortable with this?
Well, my only concern is the locker room project, then in a year, has gone up $1 million.
But it expanded. But it expanded. The original, go, yeah. Talk.
I would say, yes, it has. The original estimates were under, is I think the real answer to why it went up as much as it did. Plus inflation. I mean, the one of the categories in the economy that's having the worst inflation right now is building. So, yeah, it did go up.
But didn't you add more to the project?
No. Dr. Larkin, our architects, our Brewster Thornton group are here and are prepared to answer that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
I've got some graphics to show as well, if that would
I think
help.
really just
Yeah,
loss.
just briefly, why did
Yeah,
the
you can-
project
No, go ahead, that's fine. That's fine.
go up so high?
So, I will, I must start by saying that the original estimate was, there we go, thank you. I must start by saying that the original estimate was insufficient for the amount of work that was shown. We have about 6,000 square feet of space in that locker room project, and $1 million was not an adequate budget. But I would sort of echo some of the comments that were just made moments ago. We have seen a rapid increase in construction costs across the construction industry. There are many reasons for that. We had submitted a memo early on just talking about the construction costs, material costs, labor costs, labor shortages, and all impacting the cost of these projects. So prior to the start of spending any fee dollars, we did notify that we felt that the original estimate was low, and we made several design decisions to try to reduce any further impact. So while the original design showed about 20 plumbing fixtures, the new final design reduced that to about 16. So we did try to eliminate some of the most costly items. The size of the project did not change. The scope of the project did not change. So the spaces are the same. The one addition that I think was really valuable and is going to be an asset to this plan was the addition of an officials locker room, which didn't exist in the original plan. Officials locker room, something that is sorely lacking in that space, and it can serve as an all-gender restroom during the day. So it will not be used solely at game times, but it will be used throughout the day. We did also take the team room and move the location off of a corridor, so that room again can be used as a classroom and can be used throughout the day. So we believe we've expanded the functionality of the space and done everything we possibly can to keep the costs low.
One question, and it revolves around plumbing fixtures. been a long time since I was in high school in a gymnasium locker room, but I really find it hard to believe that 2 showers are going to suffice 2 teams, especially on the girls'
Would you like
side.
to answer that question?
I don't know if you want an answer from the athletic director or the architect. Maybe the athletic
Well,
director would be the person
you know,
best, or the girls themselves, but I don't want to get into that.
Well, I don't
So-
have daughters, but I've been around a few women and showers, and believe me.
Yeah. Mr. Grant?
The reason why the number is so low is because the culture and the use of showers in today's generation is just totally different. It's a whole different approach. We're going with separate changing areas for people now, a whole different approach. So the showers, students will not shower at school, they shower at home. The referees will shower at school, which is why we'll have 2, but the students will not shower at school. They don't, let's put it that way.
Okay.
So I was part of the building committee, and when I looked at the original, the drawings, I questioned the same thing, because I spent my years here in this locker room, and it doesn't work for the 2023 students. So this was a compilation of talking to the athletic department and the principals and putting together the practice in the 2020s, not in the 60s when we were here.
We weren't here in the 60s.
Well, we were here later, but it was built in the 60s,
Please,
yeah.
Deb.
So thank you for those comments. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that. I think it means more coming from you guys. But what I will say is that this is not unique to Tiverton. So we are taking out showers in facilities across the state. We're taking out lockers in facilities across the state. And as someone who just had kids graduate from high school, my kids carried their books throughout the day, and I kept saying, why are you doing this? Put your books in the locker. You don't want to carry around a backpack that weighs that much. I couldn't talk them into it. Couldn't talk them into taking a heavy coat in the morning, even though they stood outside and waited for the bus, so they didn't need their lockers for that. And I certainly couldn't talk them into showering at gym time. Showering's certainly a little bit more of a process for some people, so for most students, and what we find is that they will change for gym and then shower when they get home.
And Jay, can I say something that isn't official? When I go all around the state, do about 40 games a year, I never see kids shower, never. But the officials want to shower. That's probably why there's 2 showers, honestly. They don't shower.
I'm glad
I know
you
it's
wanna
gross.
shower, Mike.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shower, Mike.
I know it's gross, but they don't shower. And I know some of the people in the crowd that are in the school with the athletics can probably back us up on that.
Yeah. All right.
And
so-
as a parent, you're
Why you
driving
doing
these students who have not showered. So,
That must be fun.
All right, any other questions?
I just have one comment. I don't have any issue with any of the school stuff. I think what you've done is fine. But to the extent on the town side, if we're still bidding these things, to the extent that some are higher priced or lower priced, that within that 194,000, that we'd be able to utilize those monies to accommodate the needs that
Yeah.
are there. That's all.
I think it's always been like that.
And whatever
That's the-
excess is, we'll return back.
And if it's more, you come back to us
Yep.
with it. And there's still going to be a little bit in that account, right?
A little bit, yeah.
A tiny bit, but, all right, Dennis, any questions? John?
I'm good.
Mike? Okay, so I have a motion and a second without any further discussion. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much, Mrs. deMedeiros and town council members. I'm just going to speak for myself right at the moment, but we were really grateful that we were able to kind of put this together, and we really look forward to continuing to work collaboratively with all of you. I'd like to allow any of the school committee members to make comments if they so choose. Ms. Farnworth? Nope. Mike?
I almost never pass up an opportunity. So thank you. The collaboration is tremendous. That's why I ran for school committee. Thank you, Denise, everyone, John, Dennis, Jay, Deb. Who am I missing? Am I missing anyone? Mike's not here. Thank you. It'll mean a lot
Thank
to.
Mike.
I just
Oh,
gave
Mike
you a
is here.
tip for showering.
I says, Mike here? I couldn't see. Mike? Okay, I did. Denise's head was out. But I do want to say, for at least in the bottom of my heart, that someone that's been in Tiverton for 20 years and roughing in the gym area with the bathrooms and everything, this is going to go a long way. Students going to be very, very excited about this. Thank you.
And just last comment, the locker rooms are an important component of actually increasing the security of the schools too, so.
Yes, and we learned that last
It's a
week.
twofer in a way.
And that also helped me to learn safety last week, because some of the issues in the locker rooms are student safety.
Yep.
And that was explained last week, so that helped me come to some of this decision.
May I?
Madam President? Oh.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Change my mind.
Oh, okay. You can't change your mind.
Sorry.
You have a live mic.
I just don't want to miss the opportunity to thank the taxpayers of Tiverton, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to be availed of these funds to make them the very desperate need for improvement in our schools. And without the taxpayers standing behind this, it wouldn't be happening. So, thank you, Tiverton.
All right, anyone else?
Madam President,
Yes, John.
if I could just add, if possible, could we go ahead and get somebody under contract at the 2.2 number? Because this was like 1.9 6 months ago, so.
Yeah, we're going to move as fast as we possibly
It'd
can.
be 2.5
be any
in
higher.
another 6 months.
It won't.
Yeah, no, we will be moving as fast as we possibly can.
All right, discussion and possible vote regarding possible funding going out to bid for the approved Stage III Submittal to Ride Locker Room Project. Who wants to speak on that?
That was basically what we just did.
So do we just need a formal approval
We-
for the Stage 3 content?
Yeah, because I have to, I have to sign
So
that.
I'll make a motion to authorize the town council president to sign the Stage 3 letter, which will include the estimated cost that we just approved of 1.3 million of casino funds from FY '22 and the reimbursement of 814,219, and then the pay-as-you-go that they would receive of I lost that page,
Second.
115.5.
115.5.
And second, well, you already did it.
Okay, so I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Discussion and possible vote regarding Stage II Submittal to Ride due by September 15th.
So I don't know how you want to proceed at this point. If you want to ask Dr. Sanquioni to walk through the most recent document that you guys have, but basically it is the work that we propose to ride that the town can engage in over the next 5 years and would, of course, need allocation and a lot of other work before any projects were embarked on. This is really just giving RIDE notification and getting their approval for these projects. The most important thing it actually triggers is that it then makes all of those projects eligible for reimbursement from RIDE. Without this submission, we're not eligible for reimbursement for any other projects.
And at a higher rate, potentially?
The rate will vary, but yes.
96%, right? Because that's what Cranston got?
96.
Or, I'm sorry, Central Falls?
No, we're not Central Falls. My question is, this does not commit us to 5 years. This does not commit us to do these projects, because we are only here another year. So we can't really commit the town to anything beyond that year.
So in theory, the town is committed to doing 50% over the course of 5 years, in theory. And the reason for that is the town is always supposed to be committed to maintaining the schools and continuing to upgrade them as needed. Again, this is what allows us to get reimbursement. No one knows what happens actually if you don't meet that 50% mark within 5 years. I guess it would be up to RIDE to depend on what the punishment would be based on why that's the case. Is it because we just refuse to allocate money as a town? Is it because the town's revenues were so bad that we couldn't allocate money? Probably would be, there's not a really specific answer from RIDE when asked that question.
So you're asking, the total comes out to almost $12 million.
Correct.
So we're responsible for,
6 million over 5 years.
okay. I don't want to lose this train of thought, though. Suppose the casino goes belly up. We don't no longer have this money. And, I mean, yes, if we're thinking that for the next 5 years, we can give you anywhere between 1 and 2, then I'm not concerned. But we're taking it for the casino, so my concern is, if we make this commitment, which I don't believe we can for the 5 years, but if we make this commitment, then we're saying we're gonna have to go out for bond, and that is a vote from the town, and suppose the town says no.
Those are all correct, and I think losing casino money would be a pretty good reason why RIDE would not take any sort of a punitive approach to that. If anything, if a town is not able to maintain its schools, and it's not because of a, political willingness to allocate money, but because of decreased revenues, recessions, whatever it is, they're not going to gain anything in the overall mission of improving the educational infrastructure of the state by saying, now we're going to, I don't know what they would do. I don't know what statutory authority they actually have to do anything. But this is the process that is outlined by RIDE, and we have to follow it.
Mike?
Yeah, and I know I raised this similar point at our last meeting, but in thinking it through more, I really see this as a 5-year capital plan, knowing that, yes, we have to identify a way now to potentially fund it, but knowing also that a future council may say, yeah, we don't want to use casino money, you go out for bond. And that'll be up to a future council. And you can change the revenue stream midstream if you need to, correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. The only thing that compels you, the only thing that would be another, compulsion from this, what is really an aspirational document. So you're right, it is a capital plan. It is not the allocation. The only thing is if you chose to fund it through a bond, then you would have to go to bond within 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's the only other, requirement you could create for yourself if you did that. We're declaring it through capital, but we can change to decide to go out to bond at a later date. If that's the will of the
Madam President?
Yeah, I just want to say something. I don't want to see on Facebook tomorrow that deMedeiros says the casino is going belly up. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just in case. And I don't want to see tomorrow that quoted, as I said, the casino's going belly up. That is not true at all. Go ahead.
So it's been a while since I looked at the RIDE rules, but I did a year ago in depth. And part of their requirements is that we fund maintenance with a certain level of funding. And that can either be a percent or a dollar figure. And if you don't provide it, they can take it out of your state aid.
What
To
state
make
aid?
it,
School state aid?
yeah,
What state aid?
School.
school state.
No, I'm
I find that hard
I'm
to
speaking
believe.
rhetorically because they keep cutting us at the state level.
Yeah, well, so they give it to you, but they allocate it for that purpose.
I don't think the law would let them do that.
Now,
Because then you're actually diverting money that's been allocated for education into infrastructure. Incidentally, there is a lot of things that go into that calculation of percent effort. It's not just capital projects. It's custodian salaries.
Yeah, it could be a lot of
it's-
things.
Yeah, it's a lot of other stuff. But you're right, there is, just as there is a concept of maintenance of effort in the educational mission, there's a concept or a requirement of maintenance of effort in the infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe one other item to elicit your confidence on this Stage II submittal. So you're correct, if we use round numbers, it's about 12 million, and as Dr. Larkin said, the commitment is half of that over 5 years. if you continue to return to the school, put into that account the reimbursement, that will generate a reimbursement of about $2.4 million, which brings down the town's commitment to about 3.6 over 5 years. So again, if that helps with your confidence a little bit, and Mr. Edwards, to your point, the maintenance of effort is a whole separate component that we fill out on an annual basis that's very different than this Stage 2. Maintenance of effort is how we take care of the 5 schools, as Dr. Locken alluded to. A whole bunch of different components go into that. It's not part of the Stage 2.
Any questions, Deb?
No, just a comment that, I think that the numbers sound reasonable. We're looking 5 years. And having a crystal ball, we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. We've got bonds that will be paid off as we come up, and so possibly bonding, not that I want a bond, but it might not be unreasonable some years down the road.
Well, if everything goes the way that we're doing it now, then it's more likely that it will be okay. But I'm just saying, you never know.
Yep. Yeah, and, to that point, I agree with you, but we are required to do this in order to actually proceed with the stuff that we're supposed to be doing as, the governing bodies. But you're right, we can't predict 5 years. God knows, 2018, nobody would have predicted the current 2023 for sure, right? So.
Mike?
Two things. Again, I just want to reiterate. Right now, the base reimbursement is 40 or 45%?
Safety items 35, educational items 40.
Okay, and if we do this now, there's the potential for higher reimbursement?
Right.
Over the full 5 years or just before next July 1?
Incentives are good till December of 2024. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll have some opportunity.
We will.
The one piece with what you have here for the Stage 2 letter, I don't think we can actually say tonight is the request for the 23 casino funds, because we don't have that on the agenda.
Yeah, you can do that.
We can articulate that we would look to use casino funds.
Yeah, that was just more for
Yep.
understanding.
Yep.
All we need tonight is your approval to submit it. Nothing gets approved for funding. That's a Stage 3, like you previously just did.
And like I said, we're holding off on 2023 right this second to see what's going on with the landfill. And then we'll have a better idea after that. John?
So, just help me understand here. So this scope of work, this is kind of hard and fast. So we go Stage 2 on this. This is what we're saying, hey, these are our priorities. We cannot deviate from this once we put them in there?
You can resubmit twice a year. They don't want you to submit every single year, but they're also realistic in understanding that priorities in all kinds of situations change.
Okay. And the reason why I ask is just because one of the ones that jumps out at me, and again, this is before my time on the council, but I recall that there was a large political fight around the library becoming a media center, and I noticed that was one of the line items on there. So as long as, this is an evolving list. Once we get to Stage 2, we can pull stuff off, put new things on. If that's the case, then I'm okay with this.
We're only committing ourselves to 50% of this also, so we can pull 50% off.
Yes.
Not at all, right?
That's the list that RIDE looks at. So they set aside revenue for Tiverton. What actually gets funded, like you just did previously for the locker, it's a Stage 3. We come back to you and say, these are the projects we'd like to do this year, and this is the cost. So 5 years, you'd get 5 different segments of that, and it could change. Sure, it could change.
Okay, because what worries me, like especially with something like that, right? We saw, the locker rooms were $1 million, and they were 1.9, now they're 2.2, and we're starting off with $1 million. Like,
This
who
is the
knows? This could be a
estimate
$6
today.
million project
Yeah.
right in this room.
Everything on it can certainly change, and the changes would probably be for them to be more costly. Again, this is an aspirational document, and the important thing is to have it on the books so that if funds are allocated to any one of these projects, we then get the reimbursement. Without the Stage 2, there is no reimbursement.
Can I ask one follow-up question? Sure. So I know we obviously rebuilt some of our elementary schools, but I noticed that there was nothing related to, like, for instance, air conditioners at, Fort Barton. And I know half the school has air conditioners, but half the school doesn't. So it would have been nice to see at least that, in this document. given the fact that, students return in August and it's essentially still summer.
Point taken.
Anything, Jay?
Sounds like a PTO fundraiser.
Jay?
Been in the past.
So one question per two schools. So in the middle school and in the high school, we have a total of $310,000 for replace all doorknobs with lever handles and locks to lock classrooms. Is this going to also include the security locks that we talked about last meeting?
That is,
Yeah, that's included in that cost.
that is
And
the security
the
locks we're
master
talking
key
about.
and all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
All right.
Anybody else?
Madam President, I have one more question.
Go ahead, Jay.
And again, this might be my memory just not working correctly, but I seem to recall in a prior version of this that there was a desire to redo the entire plumbing in this building. Is that no longer a priority?
All of this is about priorities, right? But you may recall the price tag on that was about $3 million.
Yeah, it wasn't small.
Right, so working with our architects here, we feel like there's other ways to address that need.
Okay, thank you.
The final decision of the building committee was that we took this down quite a bit. You can, and RIDE does do calculations of the square footage of the buildings and the age of the buildings. And schools are, the proverbial money pits. You can always spend more money on them. The 12 million was what we came to as we thought a reasonable ask of you guys, of the town, of ourselves, that was manageable, that people could get their heads around. So that's where the numbers came from, and that's where the projects came from.
Anyone else?
So I'll open it up to the school committee if I
I'm
can.
looking over there.
Yeah. Mr. Dakotas? Mrs. Pavo?
No.
Mrs. Farnworth? Just turn it off.
Did I? Thank you. Thank you for sharing with me, Mrs. Pavo. Just a couple of things, and these are things that have already been stated, but I just want to, bring back to the forefront the fact that the needs for our schools far exceed $12 million. This $12 million was agreed upon by the building committee as those projects that the building committee and the school committee concurred should be of the highest priority over this, for this Stage II application or submittal. But, just so we all remember, with the age of this school being 50-plus years and the middle school being 40-plus, and frankly, our elementary schools are not brand new anymore either. I mean, yes, we're still paying on them, but we have to maintain them as well. So the capital needs for our schools do far outweigh $12 million, but this was the agreed-upon number for today. The topic of a Stage II, this is the RIDE mechanism for schools and cities and towns to express what they intend to do. It is standard documentation. I think we've all sat in on a number of RIDE meetings over time on this. I don't think it's the same here as it would be in any other city or town. And as far as, any town council approving a 5-year plan, it really is no different than approving 3-year contracts. There's no guarantee that any one person will be still here when the town is asked to commit to the funding, and I think that's why this $12 million less anticipated reimbursements felt like it was a responsible way to move forward.
Thank you, Diane. I wasn't gonna. Would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I will in just a moment, but I just want to note a couple of things, and I certainly appreciate, and my motion will be to support. I'm going to ask Peter, as I make the motion, to listen carefully to make sure it gives you what you need. I appreciate Ms. Farnworth's comments. I also, and certainly I think this council has shown our commitment to the schools through the use of the casino money over the time period that we've had the ability to use it, and many of us, even before that, in various bond issues and the like. I think it's also important to recognize that while we have documented 12 million here, probably more of needs for the school, the town has immense needs as well. So we always have to balance that out. And, I think I appreciate what we're doing here. I appreciate all the efforts that have happened to get us to this point, and I know sometimes they were challenging, excruciatingly challenging, but I think it got us to a better point to be able to make these decisions. So with that, Peter, please listen. Town council authorizes the president to approve a final Stage II submission to RIDE that incorporates the total projects identified by the superintendent in his memo dated September 5th, 2023, for the green shaded columns, which total $11,995,600, and that we will commit to making use of casino monies to the extent available over the next 5 years, and any other funds that might be identified for up to half of that amount. Does that?
Perfect, thank you.
But that doesn't commit us to all casino money. That's
Nope,
what I'm.
or any other funds that might be
Okay.
available.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I will
Second.
second.
Motion's been made in second.
Quick discussion.
Go ahead, John.
If we're putting in the motion that we're going to plan to use casino funds, I mean, I'm sure that's ultimately the plan that future councils may take, but given the fact that the ordinance says we can only use what we have from last year, I'm a little concerned about that specific language being in there.
Well,
Well, we aren't allocating anything.
no, we're not allocating.
So we could theoretically, the next council, let's say in the FY '23, we agree to do the 1.29. Excuse me. New council comes in, maybe similar people, maybe very different people. They say, we're not going to give you anything. So then the school committee needs to decide whether or not to go to bond for it.
And then come to us.
And then they'd have to have, right.
Yeah, but it's a whole different,
whole
that's a
different
whole
discussion.
different nightmare.
Or dream.
What
But if you
really-
have language that you want to,
No, I'm just.
I think we needed to do that just in case, as I said, the casino money is no longer available to the community, then that might be a reason why some of this commitment won't happen. Is that correct?
That's correct, and again, if you stay with that commitment of returning the reimbursement, I mean, you're going to get $990,000 back on this project, potentially $2.4 million on the other projects. You're already
Which we've already
generating
committed.
$3.6 million of other funds that you could apply, so you're
Well,
in,
and in that, I mean, the ordinance stipulates that that is set aside for those school projects, so that money's essentially banked as of this moment.
right.
I just, from a forecasting standpoint, and again, I understand this is all hypothetical, but again, a new council could walk in the door tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, but after next election, and say, we're not giving the schools another dollar, we're gonna take the casino money, we're going to dump it in the police pension, we're gonna bring it to 100% funded, we think that's a better use of the funds. But I just wanna be clear that this is over a period of 5 years, so even if, let's say, next year, there are no dollars for capital improvement for the schools, we still have 4 years left on the clock,
You do.
correct? Okay.
correct.
Not
Right.
that, again, not that I support that, I'm just
But,
hypothetical.
but we did make that special account where all the reimbursement for the school projects go back to this special account for the schools.
Right.
So that's what's funding a lot of the locker room right now. All right, so I have a motion, I have a second. Yes, Jay?
You need a second before
So,
you take more
well,
comment.
just to
I
be
did get
clear,
a
and
second.
just to,
Yeah, I
Okay,
had 2
sorry.
seconds.
well, I wasn't the
I
second.
missed it.
So the Stage 2 request at this moment in time is roughly $12 million. And the town, and we got to do 50% of it, but that's today's dollars. That is definitely, I mean, if what just happened with the locker rooms is any indication, that could double.
Well, I don't think they can double
Yeah.
the Stage 2 commitment. So in some regards,
We're locked in.
yeah,
We're locked into the 12 million.
This is your safety net.
Oh,
Yeah.
so we're only locked into 12 million?
yeah.
Yes.
$12 million will not go up every year just by inflation or,
Well, I
I mean,
got
I don't know
that.
how they would even calculate that.
So that my point is, if these projects escalate in price, then we're going to have to make decisions.
Oh, yes.
You're going to have to make decisions, which ones are still
Oh.
tenable.
Right, and
Those
which,
of us
which,
who may or may not be.
and that's,
Someone else.
and Jay, on the superintendent's final notable on the second page of the Stage 2 document, school committee will have final say on the order of projects to be submitted via Stage 3 with funding to be allocated by us. So, you know, they could come back and say, you know what, we can only do half of these projects because of cost escalators. So here's what we think we should do. And we have to decide what to do, or the council who's sitting at the time has to decide what to do.
One thing that we all, may not be as apparent to everybody because they don't work as directly with RIDE as some of us, they're looking to help us. They're not looking to punish us in any particular way. So, we just want to get this on the books so that they can say, okay, this is what you guys, this is what's aspirational. And then we come back and we say, this is what we want to try and do. And then it goes from there. I don't think, the fact that projects costs go up, I mean, they're in this business, they know that better than we do. So I don't think it's, they want us to do this so that they can then continue to collaborate with us in order to move things along.
Well, I agree. Their goal has been and continues to be improving school
Right.
infrastructures across the state. Maybe we could change our name to Central Falls.
All right, I have a
Central
motion. I have a motion on the floor, and I have a second.
Madam President, one more question.
Yep.
So, are you guys going to be back in front of us next year with a new Stage 2 submittal, or are we good for 5 years?
Good for 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
They might come to us for Stage 3 submittal.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
We can't 100% promise anything
Right.
today. You don't know what's going to happen in these buildings where we may
Right.
need to submit another Stage 2 next February. We can't make a promise like that. The intention is right now that we're following this plan, and that's it.
I appreciate that, Diane, but I will not be doing another Stage 2 approval.
Mr. Burke, I understand completely, but we, as a school board, can't make a promise
Well, we
like
just
that,
made a
not
commitment to
knowing,
the school committee
right?
Right.
and to the town
for this Stage 2.
for this Stage 2.
That's it.
Or we are.
That's all that's on the table.
All right, so I have a motion, and I have a second, and I'm going to call for a vote. All right.
Yes.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you. All
Thank
right.
you, guys. Thank you. I know it's, sometimes a fraught discussion, but we get there eventually.
It's all right, we got here. Administrator Cotta, discussion possible vote regarding School Memorandum of Understanding for School Resource Officer.
So I'll just give you a brief update because it's not ready for prime time yet. From my understanding, what went to the school committee is different from what the chief and our lady council had presented. I do know that both sides are working diligently, trying to come up with a plan that would be amenable to both sides. When that's ready, I'll present it to you. But I thought, when I saw what was going to the school committee, I thought it was what the chief had come up with, because I thought that's what we agreed to. It's not, but we will get there. So we will present at the appropriate time.
So I did put this on the agenda for Monday, didn't I? Just in case.
For exec.
For exec.
For exec, yes.
Thanks, Mike, right. All right,
So that's it.
okay, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Like for a motion for the school committee to adjourn?
Yep,
Dr. Larkin, we have one more item on our agenda.
Oh, okay. Well,
educational plan.
I didn't vote.
They can.
All right, so
We're
you guys are off the hook.
We're off the hook.
I'm going to ask for a quick recess for the school committee. Session. Next on the agenda is item 3C, School Committee discuss Stage II educational program. Dr. Sanquioni?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The educational plan is part of the Stage II submittal. When we submitted the Stage II for the previous $2 million, we had an educational plan, and we really didn't have to revise it. What you received the previous version, and this one just had nothing substantial change with just some editing and things of that nature. So it's really, I don't want to minimize it, but it's a task you've already completed once, and we're just simply asking you to complete it again. With that being said, though, our architects are here to speak to it a little deeper. So Nate, if you want to come on up.
Yeah, so I think what's important to note is that the bulk of the educational program that you're seeing is a document that shows what you have in your schools currently versus what the RIDE standards require. It was produced as part of the Stage I, submitted to RIDE. There were a few comments that came back. The one that was unaddressed was, please provide school committee approval, which is why we're here. So there's no significant changes to the documents that you have, and they were produced probably 2 years ago at this point, with the exception of the pages that are added to the back. So those are what we are proposing in the Stage II for the media centers and the office renovations, and those show a new distribution of the spaces within each of those. However, the only one that's changing in size is the middle school media lab, which is adding a multi-purpose room, sort of like a maker space. And that is really found space that was an unused classroom. But again, all of the documents here really are just what you have now.
So if I may, I'm going to just ask a few questions first. I'm a little bit misled by the term program, I guess. This is really just a descriptor of the space the square footage that in the first column is what RIDE says we should have and what we actually have?
Correct.
And what is the actual?
So could you indulge us and maybe just take us through one row to explain each value as an example?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Absolutely. So RIDE, if we look at, I'm looking at Tiverton High School. It's the first page on top, and the classroom size. So RIDE requires, or I shouldn't say requires, RIDE has a guideline of 950 square feet for a classroom. The classrooms actually range in size from 576 to 1,213. We know the typical classroom is about the RIDE size, but there are some smaller and some larger, and some of those larger classrooms are just unique spaces. Some of the smaller classrooms are also unique spaces. And as you go down through science rooms, you'll notice the same thing. The music room, it shows that we are smaller than the RIDE requirement. The art room shows that we're really right there. And you kind of go down through some of those spaces. So a tech shop space is 4,000 square feet. That's RIDE's requirement for a new building. If we were doing a new building, we would take 4,000 square feet, we would lay that out. That would be part of the new school. There are always trade-offs to these numbers. So when we're doing a new school, the RIDE reimbursement per square foot actually doesn't cover what their ideal numbers are. So typically what you end up doing is combining some spaces. So that's why you end up with a gym that's also a cafeteria. Because RIDE doesn't actually support a lot of the aspirational square footages. And they always take into consideration, especially with an existing building, the spaces that you have. So 950 square feet is a great number for a classroom. Is it always ideal? Not for every school system, and not for every configuration, and not for every type of school.
And what exactly are we voting on then? That the schools are what they are?
That the schools are what they are, that's exactly correct. So, you know, again, if we were doing...
And if we don't vote, are they going to come in and give us a new school?
Well, you know, we could try that. If we were doing a new school, I think we would be walking you through some of the trade-offs. Hey, we made the shop space a little smaller because the program isn't quite as big to support 4,000 square feet, and we traded that off for some space somewhere else. We would be able to explain some of that. What we've got here is really more of incremental improvements to your school facilities. So the new things that we would like you to take a look at and approve really are the media centers and the administrative suites. And those are in addition to the square footages that would have been reviewed during stage 1 to help establish the goals of stage 2. So it is important to remember that stage 2 is providing solutions for problems that were identified in stage 1. And the stage 1 did identify media centers as something that was important, safety and security as something that was important, and our stage 2 really addresses those issues. There weren't a lot of issues in the educational program that came up and were identified in stage 1. I do think as RIDE has shown it, a lot of the numbers are on track with where they are, considering your existing conditions.
So what exactly are we voting on?
So it's the approval of the educational program as presented in stage 1 and then as modified in stage 2.
Okay.
Could we
Yeah.
make a motion
Sure, go ahead.
before we get too far down the
Yeah,
road
yeah,
with
yeah,
our
okay.
discussion? So I will make a motion for discussion purposes that we approve the Stage 2 educational program.
Second.
So this discussion we're having right now stems directly from Dr. De Silva's call-in to our previous meeting, where he raised the issue of some unresolved questions as part of the stage 1. When we went back and looked into what those questions were, we found that they had all been addressed with the exception of an official approval from the school committee.
Okay.
May I ask
Go ahead.
one question?
Absolutely.
The high schools list here is dated 8/31/23, while the rest are all dated 1/20/22. Is that just an oversight, or is that deliberate?
I think when we submit them, we will update them all. The only thing that has changed in these is the actual number of students. We've updated that to the 2023-2024 school year, and so we will change the date.
Okay. And speaking of these library media centers, just to call it out here, I guess this is a bad example at the high school. Maybe if we looked at the middle school, because you said that there are changes in size that would be considered. So the RIDE square footage is 2680, and our square footage is 4778, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the,
Were
And
you?
is that a future view of the square footage or the current view? That's really what my question is.
Yeah, so the revised square footage or the new square footage is larger than the RIDE's recommended square footage for a media center because we are incorporating a multi-purpose classroom makerspace. and trying to take some spaces that are currently unused and make them usable. So we actually probably should break that out. I think that's a good point. We can identify the multi-purpose room as classroom space, and then the media center as media center space.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dan?
Just one more. The drawings we have here are just in support. There's nothing that's in addition to, I mean, the
Actually, we are presenting the original education program as the existing, and then the other additional sheets that you have, those are the proposed modifications that have not been incorporated into the educational program as of yet.
Can they call it something besides an educational program?
It's unfortunately that's
That is
yeah.
probably the most misleading term I've heard in a world of many misleading terms. So,
I don't think we've ever voted on.
not that I can
on this,
recall.
no.
Anyway, do you have anything else? You have the floor. Mrs. Pavo, anything? No. Mr. Dakotas? Motion's been made and seconded. I can ask for a vote. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
I vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I think we can now ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
I vote yes. We're adjourned.